Welcome back, my creative beings, to yet another episode of the MV series, where once again, guys, our goal is to unveil the curtains of the fashion and entertainment business and give you guys an inside scoop of who's behind the hottest celebrities and creative projects today. My name is Maria Von Sothen, or just MVS, and I'm your curator in chief. For today's episode, guys, I chose to invite someone that's very, very close to me. Not only are we dear friends, but we're basically family today. She's one of the kindest and most hardworking lady bosses in this industry and has also worked with some of the biggest names in both fashion and entertainment today by setting her goals high and being as determined as someone can be. I will be speaking with Erin Abeln today, who is the co-founder and head of content at eVenture, a company which makes production easy and bridges the gap between brands and creatives in the field. Her list of clients, guys, include Bottega Veneta, Chanel, Nike, Adidas, and Lululemon, and she has worked with celebrities such as Naomi Osaka and Pharrell Williams, as well as with fashion outlets such as GQ. Erin, my beautiful queen, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the
welcome.
MV series.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. How are we feeling?
We're feeling good, happy to be on a couch with you. It's
I
a rare,
know.
It's a rare moment. We're in New York together, but I love this.
It really,
Welcome.
really is. Thank you, right? You should be welcoming me. I so agree with you. I was even telling the girls like how weird to be interviewing you.
Yeah.
Right? But we're going to treat it like a regular chat.
Of course.
Or regular drink
Professionals.
sound.
Yep.
We are professional lady bosses, and that's what we're here to do today. So, guys, before we dive deep into your life and trajectory here, I would like to ask you if you could give a quick explanation of what it is that eVenture does as a company today.
Sure. So eVenture is a production company. We produce photo, video, and experiential for brands. And I would say, generally speaking, we work with big companies on their small culture initiatives.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I already knew guys a little bit about this, but I just wanted to make sure you guys were very aware of what she does because it is very, very important within the industry. So now I would love for our creatives to get to know you on a more personal level here, which is what we love to do here at the show, really dive deep, make sure that they understand where you come from, how you got here, and all the other beautiful things that happen behind the scenes. So I'm aware, I know the answer to this once again, but for our public back home, I wanted to ask you, where are you originally from and where were you raised?
I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri.
Wow,
Yep.
that's beautiful.
Yep.
Your parents are still there?
Parents still there. I go back, as often as I can. I'm from a big Midwestern family. I've got like 100 cousins, so I do go home as much as I can. And then I went to university in the Midwest too. So I was in Chicago for 4 years once I was
Wow, cold city.
the coldest.
So that got you adapted to New York a little bit better,
I
I'm
mean,
sure.
you can't even compare New York and Chicago. It's like
I
the
know.
Arctic there. So
And my love, the next question I have for you here is, do you remember when and how your interest for production began? And were you possibly like dabbling into different things before like that came to you?
Yeah, it's funny when I read this question, I was like, I've been a producer since birth,
Wow.
Like I remember like the sisters were gonna be these two characters in the play, and the
Right.
neighbor was gonna be this character. I was gonna manage costume design.
Oh, wow.
You
That
know,
part I did not know.
Yeah.
So Erin has two sisters, guys.
Yes, true. And so I don't know. I was just always like bossy with a vision, and I kind of think that's what a producer is in a lot of ways. And no, professionally, I had no idea what that meant until
Right.
I really stepped into the role.
And were you at any point doing other things before you formally started in production, work-wise?
So again, like a long story, but I'll keep it brief. Basically, I went to college to be in finance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I wanted to be like the CFO of Barney's. That's like what I had in my head as where I was going to end up in life. And so my parents wouldn't let me go to New York. They said, pick somewhere close by. So I picked Chicago. I picked a finance degree and unfortunately graduated in 2010 when the economy was bottomed out.
Yes.
So it sounded so depressing to go to work for a bank.
Absolutely.
Right?
I can totally understand that. Even though I could see you as a CFO, I must
well,
say
there's
that.
still time for that.
But,
for
yeah,
sure.
you still have time, girl. You're young.
Exactly.
How crazy.
But
So your parents wanted to keep you close?
They wanted to keep me close. They said, pick a 5-hour radius
Wow.
drive. And I was like,
what do I do?
where's that? Memphis, Nashville, Kansas City? So I picked Chicago, went there, got a business degree, finance major. And then the day I graduated, the day I was on a flight to New York.
Oh my God. So you already knew, your heart.
I knew. I knew from young I was going to end up in New York City. For sure.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How crazy. I did not know that part. I must confess to you guys. And after uncovering this beautiful passion of yours for production, right? What would you say was your first official experience, right, as a producer? And of course, we love to know, how did that happen?
Yeah,
for you?
Of course. So that day I graduated college, I fly to New York. I had an offer to work for Credit Suisse or one of the big banks. Got here, said no, that's not going to make me happy. Started looking for...
Proud of you for really standing your ground and being I don't want to do this.
I knew immediately. I was so happy to have landed here in this place that felt so right, but it was an opportunity that felt so wrong, and I just didn't know why. There was no answers. I needed money. I needed to make money.
But it just didn't feel right.
Didn't feel right. So I didn't know a lot of people here. One of the only people that I knew was a DP, director of photography.
Oh, wow, okay.
And he was from St. Louis, who'd also moved out here. And he was like, I can get you a job in a production office if you want.
An angel.
So sent me off to the interview. I kind of told a few little white lies. I was like, I was
think we all do.
Film club in college or something like that.
Killing it at the film club.
Yeah, exactly. And they offered me a office production assistant job on the spot, and then within 2 weeks they promoted me to coordinator. They saw that I was competent, was doing things all the right way. So I stepped it up really quickly, and then I learned so much from my boss there. It was basically a crash course in production.
Oh wow. It was almost a little school that maybe you didn't have previously, right?
But he really, I was honest with him about what I knew, what I didn't. Thank God for the iPhone, under my desk, what is
they'll say a word or something in the industry. You're what is this?
What is that? Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
So that was kind of my step into the world and the crash course. I call it the crash course. But that was a TV project for HBO. And I learned within that 4-month contract, I did not like TV production. Ooh. Just the hours were insane. And
I do understand that.
No gratification. I wasn't in the field very much. I was way more in the office. And I didn't love that. So I immediately stepped into commercial production, but that was before the advent of social media content that we know today. So that I was working for these huge production companies that were working on $multi-million Super Bowl spots. I was a tiny little pebble in this huge operation.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because today it's much more self-made everything. You can really.
Well, it's just that the outputs are so much great. We need so much more content these days. There's so many more platforms and avenues. And back then it was really it was billboards, out of home advertising and big commercials. There wasn't what there is today.
It's another world.
It was another world. It was another world, and it wasn't even that long ago. So it's changed so much. But I think my revelation, and when I really put on my producer hat for the first time, I was working in an office wrapping a really big commercial. Okay. And someone, her name's Ilona Claver, she's a dear friend of mine to this day. She was the head of production for the production company that I was working for at the time.
Okay, amazing.
And she called me a month later, and she's like, Erin, there's this opportunity, and I thought of you. Oh, she's like, will you come in? I want to tell you about it. And so it was for Made Fashion Week, which was owned at the time by some of the Milk Studios partners.
I did see that in your resume. In your LinkedIn.
Yes. So. and honestly, that was a pivotal moment for me, because they brought me in and they said, okay, here's the project. We have a platform. It's like a blog, essentially, where we review all the shows and we post photography of the shows, and we have a little bit of an edge over Women's Wear Daily and all of that, because they happen in our building. So we can be uploading the images and writing the content within minutes of the show ending. And so we're always the first to press. And I was like, super cool. They're like, also, we have about 30 corporate sponsors and they want to have their own owned content. And they're going to be posting it on their social media platforms. And we were like, oh,
this is interesting.
What is that?
This is new. Yeah.
What is this? And it was, so we were like, you know, it was like Amex, Belvedere, Lexus, like all these huge corporations that were sponsoring Made Fashion Week at the time. This was before they were bought out by IMG. And yeah, it was like a crash course, a new crash course.
A new crash course. Because that was right after your initial.
Right. This was like 4 years in. So this was like, I knew what I was doing. Right. I knew who to call. I knew how to command a set. I knew like all the back end. I was prepared for something else. And then this happened, and it was like building these bigger teams to support this huge amount of assets that were suddenly coming in. It wasn't like we were working towards one final commercial goal. It was like we were a production hub. We needed to output constantly, you know, 30 assets a day per sponsor, plus keep the blog up and running. So it was managing like 20 photographers, 10 DPs, 5 editors.
That's a lot.
You know, a whole editorial team. So like I was like the boss of the whole thing. And it was like, I was so young. I was like basically lying about my age. And
oh my God.
Yeah, but it was a great opportunity to me.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you're saying about the age thing.
Yeah.
Because I was actually talking to my team about this. My girl, that's actually my right hand, that's filming this right now.
Yeah.
It was funny because when she first came into the team, she also did not want to tell me her age because she was very young, and she was supposed to really like, you know, mentor everybody else and take care of everybody else. And it's funny that when she told me, the first thing I thought was like, I didn't know you were this young. If I knew, I don't know, you know, but she was so great at her job. And I remember my first experience too, when I was initially living the Webster, where I stayed for 4 years.
Yeah.
I was interviewing to be the head of e-commerce for Intermix. And I remember that I did not get the job because of my age. And so it was pretty crazy. They were afraid I wouldn't be able to manage the team or whatnot. So like, I'm glad that maybe you didn't talk about it, because I do know there's still to this day a little bit of stigma with that.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And so I think that it's nothing to be ashamed about, guys, but it is something that can happen because people might think you have that lack of experience.
I'd created it in my head, but yeah, I think looking back, there was no reason to be shy about it. But at the time, I felt like maybe not deserving.
Yeah, for sure. Almost like that imposter syndrome, which we should not have.
Absolutely.
But we do have many times, right? And how long were you at this company for?
So I was never with them full time. They brought me in seasonally, so twice a year for Fashion Week for 4 seasons. And I think that's when they started negotiating with IMG, and things changed drastically after that.
Okay, and after that experience with them, right? How was it for you to start maybe booking other clients outside of that, right? Or secure new clients for yourself? Was it easy? Was it right away? Or was it something you really had to work hard for?
Well, it was great for me because it was like I suddenly had this calendar laid out in front of me where I was like, okay, I'm gonna have my fashion weeks twice a year.
Right.
What else happens during the year where similar things are happening, where I can apply the same type of, you know, team structure, et cetera, et cetera. So then it was, of course, natural things like Art Basel was a really big one. You know,
and you kill it at Art Basel to this day, guys.
To this day. Art Basel kills me, I think.
True.
It's like, but yeah, it was like, it was kind of like looking at a calendar year and saying like, where are these big opportunities happening for brands that want to make content supporting these events? And so I kind of, you know, it wasn't that slow of a start because people really needed it. All of a sudden, it was like, we need Instagram content. We need, you know.
So that was really great because I feel like when you started, it was also right at that cusp where like this movement was really, really establishing itself.
Exactly.
So I'm so glad that you entered it in the time that it was really exploding with opportunities, which is what we want so much for every field in this industry, right? To keep growing that for everybody.
100%.
I love that. And would you say, I know you mentioned 2 people that helped you already. Was there anybody else, or would you say any of these 2 were maybe your biggest mentors or supporters even, you know, that guided you or maybe even helped introduce you to, you know, other clients or helped you reach certain milestones?
Sure. I would say I already called out Alona.
Yes.
She's living in LA now. She's definitely a contemporary of mine. I really just look up to her so much, and she's just a friend of mine these days. But that was a huge moment for my career. And then also just kind of being in the Made Fashion Week circuit, I have a lot of other contemporaries who have kind of grown up in a similar fashion and now have big jobs with a lot of different companies.
Absolutely.
So that was a really healthy growing space. And one of the founders, his name is Keith Batista. Okay. He owns Project. And
beautiful.
Yeah, they produce, the Met Gala. They just did Jay-Z's after Oscars party. Like he is someone who I definitely consider to be a mentor. He's so incredible. He's one of the busiest people I know. And
I'm sure.
I'll be like, Keith, I want to talk to you about something. And he'll book a coffee with me. Like and
beautiful.
If he sees me out at an event, it'll be like a huge major event, and he'll like beeline to me and just be like, how are you?
We need more people like this.
We need
man.
more
Seriously.
He's one of the like kindest, and he has social media, but he's like never posting. He's very like low key, and just he's really just a magnet for professionalism and high level talent. So I really look up to him.
So he's one of the ones that truly deserves, I'm sure, to be where he is today. Shout out to you, friend.
Shout out Keith Batista. Well, he just got acquired 2 days ago, his company, by a massive company. I don't know what's next for Keith, but I'm like,
he's gonna keep crushing this industry.
He's incredible.
One event at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
And friend, I know that today you've been in the industry, for a few years, and you were definitely freelancing with other production companies and agencies, like you already mentioned a few of those. So I was wondering, how did the idea, and desire to really start your own company venture come about?
Well, it really, if you would have asked me 8 years ago, do you want your own company? I would have been like, no, I don't want the responsibility. I'm happy with my life. I love to travel all the time, all these things.
And I know you still do.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I would say now it's a little bit more planned. It's not as by the seat of my pants as it used to be.
I get that.
But, I would say about 6 years ago, my sister and I were kind of moving at a very similar pace.
Right.
Kind of in the two different industries, but very adjacent industries. And we were both experiencing similar situations, which was we'd be hired by a company. We would overperform for their client. They would absolutely be obsessed with us. We would make them money, save them money.
Everything.
Build a great team. All the things.
Above and beyond.
Above and beyond. Yeah. We care so much about our work. So it was the client leeches onto that, and then they call the company and they're like, is Erin working on this? And then they're like, no. And then they're like, wait, what?
Because they would really associate you even to the deal itself.
Exactly.
Basically. That's crazy.
Or I'd get the email directly and be like, oh, let me loop you in with this company because I'm not really there. They should be the ones managing this conversation.
Care, but you're almost feeling like, are they attached more to me?
Yeah. Right. And then it was all the negotiating finder's fees and things like that, because it's I'm not here to be money grabbing, but I was but I'm doing all this work and I'm bringing you these clients. Absolutely. So come on.
And they probably wouldn't have even gone there if you weren't attached to it. That's probably why they'd even ask for you in the 100%. First place. I remember you even telling me the story the first time I met you, and I remember you saying I have this feeling where I do such a great job for the clients, right? Mm-hmm. But then not always I am attached to this. I remember this vividly, and I'm glad you refreshed my mind about the whole story, because it's so true, and I would have completely felt the same way as you. Are you kidding?
Right. Yeah. Right. And at the end of the day, we were doing everything. So I was like, why don't we just do this very casually? And Allie at the time was very young, and she was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And I was like, well, I'm going to start the company. You're my partner.
You're coming, girl.
Was all the analogies. I was like, Allie, just pretend I'm buying a car. I'm parking it in the garage. And if you want to take it for a ride, it's all yours. It's there. But because I just was fearful to do it alone.
Right.
I don't know why, but it just felt overwhelming.
And thank you for saying that, because I feel a lot of our creatives back home also have a lot of fear in starting their own business, girl.
Oh my God, it's terrifying.
We all go through this, guys. You see, and how amazing she's doing today. We'll still get more into that. that. But, please don't be afraid. And if you are, still go for it because she did.
Yeah.
And shout out to Allie, who also ended up driving the car with her.
Eventually. Quite quickly, she learned how to drive the car, actually.
She was driving better.
Yeah, I know. I was like, slow down, pump the brakes. All right.
Shout out to Allie. Yeah. We love you, girl. So, talking about obviously the initial stages of your beautiful baby adventure, right? Was it challenging, I guess, the first few months, the first year, I would say, of adventure? And if so, why?
So just like the very initial start, the hardest thing was to just come up with a name. We're so behind the scenes people that we're like, well, what do we call something that's gonna be public facing? It was so awkward for us to just pick a name. But then I had a very good client calling, and he's like, I've got an excellent opportunity for your company. And I'm like, shit, all we need is a name, and then we can register the company, open bank accounts, get insurance, we just need a name. So we landed here.
You already knew all the strategic stuff.
Yeah, I knew everything that needed to be done.
Creativity to come with the name, because it's the hardest part.
It's so hard. It's so hard. So once we had the name, open the bank account, within days we'd had a signed contract, which was with BMW for Art Basel. So
I wouldn't expect anything less from her, guys.
So we just got lucky, and then from there it was like, okay, we got one, and then a month later we got another one, which was Lyft at the Grammys. They did this crazy activation, so the point of a venture, when it gets really to the niche moment, is when we do the content with the experience, or immersive experiential with content. That. So Lyft was our first immersive project. Okay. And it was our second project. We thought we were going to work a year to get there, and it was like number 2. So we got so lucky.
What a blessing.
And then our first year of business was amazing, I would say, with the exception of one learning, which was a tricky one.
Okay, we love to hear that.
Well, it just got really messy. I would say we worked with an agency that we didn't know behind the scenes of what was happening with them, which was a lot of shifting and moving parts of people. And so we were finding they were managing the client, and a lot of balls were getting dropped, and things were not being communicated properly to us.
And it's almost like it's on you when it's not.
Well, production just is the buck drops at production. If production's not perfect, everything's a mess.
It's gonna go wrong. That's why, to me, this is so important, guys, in the field. You see, and I agree.
Right, and it looks bad on us.
Of course.
So that was like our first year of learning when we need to step in, because it was like we were letting them manage the client, and what should have happened was we should have stepped over to them on the side and said, we can tell that something's not working over here. How can we help, or how can we support?
Absolutely.
But other than that, it's been a pretty smooth road.
What a blessing. I think it was just because you already got so prepared for this. I think you were so ready for this that it was like God was willing, the universe, whatever you want to call that, was willing to bring you that blessing right away, because I do think you worked so hard to get there. I know how many years you were doing that for. Yeah. And you deserve that, point blank period, So I think that that's why these blessings happen. You know in your heart that you had to do that. Even with fear, you went ahead and you took that leap of faith. Yeah. And the universe rewarded you with it. And I think it's beautiful that you even mentioned that stepping stone that you had, a little, it's never a perfect journey. It never will be, right? For anybody. Right. And so I think that it's important that you share that, and that you also learned, I think, at that moment to take that initiative, and not, even though you didn't want to step on anybody's toes, you're like, okay, but I need to make sure that my side is clean and clear for the client, right? Absolutely. And I kind of want to touch again, a little bit on you and Allie, that we were just talking about her. I am well aware that, she's head of experiential today, and is obviously also your co-founder, as you just told us here at eVenture. And how would you say today your jobs differ at the company, meaning which part of production will she take over or oversee, and which part will you?
Perfect. So it's pretty clearly defined, as in we both have our own lanes. Like I said before, so experiential is basically anything event centric. So anything like a consumer actually touches and feels and is present in. I oversee anything content. So basically anything digital. So anything that a consumer will see online, or, sometimes out of home and
Absolutely.
sometimes commercial, but Ali does everything to do with experiences.
Amazing. It's important to understand because I think you both complement each other so well. Because it's
Right.
obviously the both things that you need.
Totally.
Right, for
Totally.
a production company today. So I'm so glad that you both have like this different whatever
Right.
paths in it and can really take over everything together.
Right, right. And like I said, the perfect project for us, not every project is going to have content deliverables. Not every project is going to have an experiential component. So perfect jobs for us really blend the two.
Right.
So like just for example, this week, the most recent thing we put in was like a footwear company is releasing a shoe. They are going to have runners come and test the shoe. And there's going to be this whole content capture moment where the runner's going to walk away with this like asset that they can post to social media.
Absolutely.
So Ali will do, everything event centered. She'll build the set. She'll, manage the
Literally
security. She'll make
right.
sure the
Oh, wow.
fulfillment is there, all the shoe sizes. And then I'll manage, the whole photography, video team, post-production team. So it's like...
And I appreciate you really breaking it down of what it
course.
takes to do her part of the job and what it takes to do yours. So really, our creatives back home can understand even maybe they're more of your type of girl, or
Totally.
they're more of hers,
Two
and
types
really,
of girls.
right? Understand where they fit and where their, I guess their, favorite things to do or their passions really fit more into, because there are two different things regardless
100%.
if they're on the same field, right? And now still in our adventure topic, obviously, which is so important in your life today. Can you recall maybe a job that you guys have taken on, which was possibly like a bucket list goal or even a favorite for you or Ali?
Yes, I would say the first one that comes to mind was one that was one of the first that came to us after COVID sort of like
That was
let
a
up
hard
a little
period, I'm
bit. That
sure,
was
yeah.
a hard period because content was pumping, but experiences were not happening because
Right.
we couldn't be in public, and then it was groups of 20 and then it was groups of 50
Oh,
and then it was groups of 100.
What a headache. I remember to do videos, it was the same.
Yeah,
When
yeah. So it was hard times, but I remember the first call that came from a really good friend of mine named Mark Moran, who has a company
Okay.
called Works in Chicago. They're major,
Oh, nice.
and he put us in touch. He's like, we got a brief, and we want you guys to work on it. We're going to intro you to the agency. Can you do a call immediately? So we're like, great, let's get on the phone. And the project was for Reebok.
Oh, nice.
At the time, Kirby Jean Raymond had just announced his creative directorship there.
Right.
And this was going to be his first project.
Which was major.
Which was major at
Major.
the time. Yeah, major
Wow.
for him and major for Reebok. And so his first project was going to be the release of a film called Crate Masters that he was going to film, produce, direct in his neighborhood of Ocean Park, Brooklyn, which happened to be right by where we were living during
Literally.
COVID.
Yeah.
So we got the brief and we loved it because it was this super community-centric event, which we usually do kind of like these luxury events
Right.
or influencer events or whatever. And this was going to be an event for his community.
Oh, how
there.
nice.
It was
I
really,
love that.
It was really special. So we worked with the community to program like a kids basketball tournament.
Yeah.
And
I love this.
it was really cool.
How nice.
Yeah, and then after the tournament, we screened the film. And, everything just went perfectly. And it was so cool. We got to meet, like, all the heads of creative at Reebok. The agency was M&C and Saatchi. And it was just
nice.
cool. Like, they called us. They're like, we hear you're the guys producing this. And we're so happy to have you. And we did everything from the entire experience design
Right.
to, we were the community liaisons.
Oh,
and,
wow.
we made all the content from the event.
Literally.
And it was just a really special project. I
How
would say.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was like a nice way to like immerse yourselves back into like the
Totally.
actual physical work.
It really did.
And it sounds like it was pretty smooth and pretty inspirational.
It was.
Through and through. So
Yeah.
I get why
Yeah.
you chose that one. And I think it was a good time to really like get you guys back on the road, I would say, right?
Absolutely. And it kind of reset our mission, which was like a little bit more intentional the creatives that we choose to work with, the communities
Yeah.
where we're producing in should have people from the community working on
Absolutely.
the project. So it kind of reset our mission a little bit, and we've been able to like hold that through till now. So
yeah, it's nice when that connects to your mission, right? The project and the
Totally.
client, the way they work, the way they treat you, the way things flow. That makes a
Completely.
huge difference.
It completely, and it doesn't always happen that way, but when it does, it's like magic.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. And my love, we've given obviously our creatives a little glimpse of the many celebrities and brands that you guys have worked with in the past, obviously, and they're all obviously so incredible. And having that said, what do you think has been maybe your biggest differential or Eventure's biggest differential, right? As a production company or yourself as a producer, which has maybe set you apart and helped you retain clients in the industry today or in the past?
Sure. So, I mean, I don't know. My perception of how we're different is, generally speaking, we are very Midwestern. We're very like authentic.
Yes.
We're very transparent.
I agree.
We have a lot of accountability. Like, the thing with production, the one guarantee is like things will go wrong.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I can promise you in production. Things will go wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's like, are you going to be accountable for that thing that goes wrong, and how are you going to fix it, or have the foresight to know?
Absolutely.
That's really what pulls you apart, because some people would maybe like shrink away and be like, oh, I don't know how to
Or it
manage
wasn't
this
me,
mess,
or
it
like
wasn't me,
blame
it was
someone
them.
else, which is the
Exactly.
worst someone can do, I think.
The worst. So
that makes
I
a
would
lot of
say
sense.
That's probably one of the things that our clients appreciate.
I love that. I would definitely appreciate that too. And I know where you're coming from. I've also had to take responsibilities for my own things going wrong in styling. And I do think that goes a long way when you're just so transparent and honest with your client.
Totally.
And really talking about relationships too. I think even if you were wrong, you're building that trust where like, I can acknowledge that this happened and I will come quickly with a solution to you. Right. So I completely got that. That makes a lot of sense. You guys should take notes. You guys should take notes on this. And, we love as well to share lessons here, obviously, at the MV series. I think is one of the most important things for me.
Sure.
To really guide everybody back home, understand, like, how the full journey and the full circle really takes place and what are the lessons that really impacted you, right, as a producer. So what would you say has been the biggest lesson you've learned throughout your journey in production, which you believe is important to share with our creatives back home?
Lessons. Number one, people are your greatest asset. So what does that mean? It means like every single person you come in contact is somehow an asset to you. You just might not know it for a decade.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Totally. It could be something
Biggest
where
thing.
like a PA becomes your client in 10 years. Or,
How crazy.
how crazy, but it
it
can
happens.
happen. And
It
when
happens.
you make an impact on somebody and you treat them like they're a part of the team and they're an asset, that sticks with people. So
Absolutely.
that's been a huge lesson for me, because I think, when you're on the come up, you're kind of just like, you're just looking up top and you're never looking down. You're just like, how do I get up there? And you gotta mind.
That is so important, guys. Seriously.
Yeah.
This is huge what you just had. I couldn't agree more. I think that, in my opinion, you always have to treat everybody, no matter who it is, the same you would like to be treated.
Of course.
And kind of always have someone in your radar. It's funny that you're saying this, because one of my, many years ago, one of my first assistants, she's now working for Nike. And so she also reached out to me about a project. I was like, wait, girl, you're killing it right now. What do you even mean? So, I totally see where you're coming from, where, we really need to take note and support these people, even when they are working with you, and kind of see that talent.
Absolutely.
To be able to explore later or touch base later on.
100%. Every day is a learning experience.
That's right.
Never think you know everything. You always have the opportunity to learn something new every single day.
That is so true.
Yeah, so keep a learner's hat on. And I would say, to add to that, especially if you want to be in my shoes, you need to stay on top of tech. I know it sucks and it can be boring, and it can
ever shaping, right? Ever evolving.
Yeah, Web3 and AI and virtual
insane.
production and all of that stuff. I will say it's overwhelming to me, for sure. But I think just, find a newsletter or a podcaster
Right.
or someone
That's
who
huge.
speaks your language so that they can translate to you what you need to know, because you do need to stay on top of this stuff.
Absolutely. I think those two were seriously incredibly important for us to listen to today. I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm sure, everybody's taking notes back home to really, guys, and like she said, to put yourself in her shoes. And I think that last one was a really important lesson as well, that we always need to keep learning. I think in any field, you can never think that you know everything, especially because with technology today, like you just said, in any field, doesn't matter which one it is, it's truly shape-shifting constantly. And if you're not on top of it, someone else will be, and you're sure as hell will lose that client to the person that is, right?
Yeah, completely.
And I think it's also, like we just said, it was so important to discuss lessons with our creatives, but it's equally as important, I think, to us here to discuss difficult moments, right, that you have faced during your career, so we can truly give them, again, a full glimpse of your journey and of this journey in production. So do you remember, my love, any moments in your career which have truly tested you as a professional? And if so, how did it possibly help you grow, of course, as a professional as well, right?
I think like your 20s as a human being
Right.
are such like a training camp for learning about yourself. And I mean, a big thing for me, both in my personal life and in my professional life, was boundary learning and understanding.
Tell me about it.
I mean, the things I used to
Do.
the places I used to find myself, like it was just like, what am I doing here? But at the time I was like, this is the job. This is what the job requires of me. I need to be doing this.
How crazy.
And so it was just a lot of not being able to advocate for myself because I just didn't have the skill set yet. I didn't know that I needed to say no.
Right,
I didn't know that. And that's a hard part of being like in an entrepreneurial founder boss position is
Absolutely.
you don't have that person to turn to and say, I don't know if I feel comfortable doing this, or I haven't slept in 48 hours.
You have to make your own decisions. Right.
Yeah, you have to just decide. And I think there was like maybe a little bit of fear in my early days
Of
where
course.
it was like, if I don't do this, or if
lose the job.
yeah, exactly. So there was definitely some of that, but I think that is what you just go through, and time teaches you these lessons. Like, good for you if you learn boundaries in your early 20s.
Literally, like
Good
props
for
to
you. Good
Literally.
for you. Oh my
I
goodness.
did not.
No.
It took me a really long ass time. I'm gonna have to say that to you too. I think even my girls know this. They've been through this with me, where like I would stay in videos maybe till the next day, until like 12, till noon, when I was there till that morning.
Totally.
And the client didn't arrive for like 11 hours. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take a break and you give me a little call, babe, once you're done.
Yeah.
Right? But that would, like, I did not know how to do that, because I was like, what if I leave and he just shows up out of nowhere? And it's like, no, like, if I was waiting for 5 hours and he didn't show up, then I'm going to take my team home.
Yep.
I'm going to wait patiently. We're going to do something else. We're going to get a shower. We're going to eat. And when they're ready, they can give us a little call.
Yep.
Right? So I could not relate more seriously to what you just said right now.
Yeah.
It's truly like so true.
Yeah.
It's incredible how we need to learn the value of like our time, guys, and where to draw the boundary. Of course, you're going to go above and beyond, right? For any client, like we are huge overachievers here. I can tell you that. But I think that there's a time and place for everything, and a limit for even like your health, and your mental health.
Oh,
right?
totally. You don't do your best work when you're stressed to that level. That's another part of boundary building is once you know how to prioritize your time, you aren't as stressed out by these types of things. Like you can easily establish a boundary and say, this is what I need to get done with this time that I've established. If you need me to do X, Y, and Z extra, then we're going to have to figure that out.
We're going to have to
talk
talk
about
about
this is a priority right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. And today, Erin, what would you say is possibly your biggest struggle or challenge producing for a client? And what are your strategies to turn this around?
Well, I mean, very recently, I would say, we're all feeling a little bit of the recession fear.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm feeling today in the office. A lot of brands, they have a marketing spend. They know they need to spend it, how to approach it without going over, or how to think more creatively about how to stretch it. So there's a lot of like hypothetical going on.
Right.
Also, a few of our clients were affected by the
Absolutely.
Silicon Valley Bank.
Oof, that was a
this week.
huge thing.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's like, there was just COVID, and now there seems to be this financial crisis impending.
Yeah. And
I
it's
don't
affected
know.
fashion for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I've even seen a couple of articles about it, even in WWD. I was reading about it the other day, so I know it has had an impact in our industry for sure.
Right.
For sure. And I think it's maybe something you're going to have to figure out with time, right? How to like turn it around and get creative.
Yeah, exactly. And also at the same time, like I look to my creatives also as my clients, because
for sure.
I'm supporting them as much as I'm supporting my client.
How beautiful. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it's like today I had a great call with a DP that I work with often, and he's using this time to build this amazing community in LA called Black Behind the Camera, I think.
Wow.
So yeah, he was telling me about his first few events.
To meet him.
He's incredible. And like what he's done with like this past 3 months, because he's like, I'm not as busy as usual. Like he's usually booked day to day. And he's like, so I just started these community events, and it's been insane. Now I'm getting calls from like universities to go speak. I'm like, in just a few months, these things happen. So
absolutely.
I think it's like supporting creatives in what they're doing in this weird transitionary financial time. And
for sure. And I think the best ideas come from the struggling times. I think the most creative ideas.
Totally.
I think for me, for sure, even with this show, a little bit about that. You've been with me through it for a while, but I think that it was definitely out of like a struggle situation too, situations in the market, you know, and then something comes up, and then even when things were back to normal, this idea just stuck to my heart, and I was like, no, I think I'm doing this. And I think it was one of like the things that most spoke to my heart, to really like support my community as well. So I totally get where you're coming from and why this is so special for you to have around and to support as well. And I think, friend, I would love to get into some advice that you might have for our creatives back home, of course. So for someone trying to get into production, where and how can they start, from scratch?
I mean, geez, there's so many ways. Yeah. There's, the very non-traditional way. Like, I didn't even know what I was stepping into. Like, when I started, if you live in one of the big markets that has a film production community or an event production community, there's jobs. Like, there just is. If it doesn't exist with a paycheck, it exists without a paycheck.
Right, even interning, right?
Exactly.
Got some experience under your belt.
And don't be afraid to be a bit like, you might think you're being annoying, but to me, I love somebody who is persistent. If I get 6 emails from somebody, I'm like, damn, this person wants this, and I'm gonna give it to them. So like,
I'm ready.
I love when younger people are just like not afraid to throw themselves out there, because I know it's really intimidating to just cold email people and expect that they're never gonna read it or get you back. Like, so I always make an effort to respond to anyone who emails or DMs.
That is so nice.
Yes.
That is so kind. And that's why you're here, because I know you do. And you've told me about this. I swear that's why I brought you here, because I know how appreciative you are towards people really reaching out to you and trying. And guys, I think there's no fear, and also, emailing people, even if it's 20 times, like Erin just said.
Totally.
And you will end up at some point somehow getting a response from someone. Like, especially if Erin had saw it, probably, you would have gotten a list of hello.
Influx in my inbox.
Exactly. So it is so important to reach out, for every opportunity until you really get your foot.
Definitely. And I think, like, just don't be afraid to do the work that's asked of you, even if you don't exactly know what you're doing. The pieces will start to click together. Everything will start to make sense. And just do your best and be honest.
And even like you said yourself, when you first started, like maybe there were some things they were referencing to when you were Googling, but you figured your way through it 100%. Even without knowing it. So that's a huge example, guys, for you guys that maybe are afraid. Erin was too, like she just said, when she started. And, regardless, you just got to go for that and be ready when the moment rises. Even if you don't think you're ready, you will have to be, and you'll put yourself in those shoes and just go for it, right? No matter what. And what do you think, my lover, crucial skills or connections you believe are important to have or to acquire for anyone who wants to make it big in production, right? So like, maybe is it important to network with, a specific type of people, or like to have in your radar, you know?
Well, I mean, I'm a big believer in manifesting, and the only way to manifest is to really draw yourself out a roadmap. You've got to know where you're going. The only way to get there is to know what the path looks like. So I think realize that the world of production is a big world, and you kind of need to pick a place where you're going to start that world. Do you care about luxury fashion? Then that's really who you should be working with and going after. Anywhere in that space, even if it's not a production role, you know, if it's in the industry, you need to learn everything about that industry just to even be a producer in that industry. So
music to my ears.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. I think like that's a big thing, is like identify like what's interesting to you, what tech is interesting to you, what clients are interesting to you, and then from there, like, know that production is a 24/7 commitment. Once you've signed a contract,
you're there.
Every minute counts. You know, don't let a minute go to waste. Pick up the phone and make a call, and make sure that you're sorting out every vendor contract, every talent agreement, every location agreement. You know, really talk things through with every single person that you're signing a contract with, because, you know, in many years of doing this, it's just everything needs to be in paper, and have that conversation, and then put it all on paper trail.
Wow.
Who did you talk to at that company?
Exactly.
Write their name down, send it in an email afterwards.
Wow.
We just talked about this, you know. Those are really big things that could have saved me a lot of headaches in my early years.
If you had known about that,
I would have been more diligent. It's hard when you're, you know, up against a deadline and you're 48 hours from
and you
a
gotta
shoot.
run things through, right?
Yeah, and you still got to make sure everything's done on excellent written communication on digital.
That's amazing. That's actually a really, really, I think, important, clearly skill to have in your field. And it sounds like you need to be super meticulous, you know, about the way it's done, about the way it's spoken about, and really what is on paper and what it's not. Because I couldn't agree more with you. I also would have saved myself a lot of headaches if I had not just talked things through in a phone call.
Right.
If that were with a client, if that is with a brand, you know, how much better it is to really have everything stated so you can have that in your side. So it is huge what you just had, and super important. And finally, do you have any tips for producers to increase their chances, right, of being noticed or considered by a potential client, production company, or agency?
Definitely be a pleasure to work with. Do not be a pain in the butt.
Huge.
I think I get a lot of comments on set like, you're so calm. And I'm like, yeah, because I already did all the work before we all showed up here. So I'm just here to relax and make art. Like,
I'm just looking cute over here.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this day and age, like we didn't have a website even for the first 3 years of the venture. We were busy producing with our heads down. We wanted to have like a book of work before we really announced the company, and it took 3 years of just nonstop working. And then I think now that we have a digital presence, like it's just more and more important. And like
today, right, to be out there in the internet showcasing the work, your partners.
I do think so. And I do think that a good amount of business development, whether that's you going to various like industry kind of meetups, or you're using LinkedIn or whatever it is, like I really think that being a good producer is about making interpersonal connections like at the forefront of your business. So
absolutely,
you know, every phone call we get, it's like, we heard great things about you from so and so.
Word of mouth, right? Keeping up that.
Yeah, exactly. So your reputation matters. It needs to look like you on the internet. It needs to be your best foot forward.
Absolutely.
When you're meeting people, you're representing yourself and your company, you know.
And I think that, you know, considering the fact that you've had so much experience at this point, you really, really, you know, have paved your own way here. Did you notice any changes in the industry compared to when you first started? I know you talked a little about in regards to tech and all of that, but...
Well, of course, what I'm going to talk about is how many more women and people of color there are in more top-level roles. I would love to see a million times more of it, but I mean, oh my God, it was a man's world when I started, and it was 10 years ago.
How crazy. Like, it seems like you're talking about 50 years ago, you know, but it's not.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, I mean, I'm so
happy and proud that you're saying that it has been, you know, recurring change within it.
I see it happening. I hope it's here to stay. I hope it's not this, like, flash in the pan moment. I don't think it could be, because I know for myself and all of my clients that is important to them.
For sure.
You know, there's official rules at companies now that like ensure that these things happen. So
for sure,
for me, that's the biggest thing.
I love that you said that.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, and it makes my heart smile, because I think we're also trying to, you know, create change within the industry as well, and show all the amazing people that have worked so hard behind the scenes. And I think that to us, it's always important to show that variety too, both with men, women, everything you want. Like, I think that truly what is important in this industry is seeing diversity, because I think that what matters the most is having, you know, very different types of points of views and, you know, different takes. And if you're just grabbing that same type of person, you know, you're not gonna have really all these types of different opinions, point of views, cultural backgrounds that you could have, and could make a project so much more interesting
100%.
just by having these people around, right? And would you say that that's maybe the biggest change you want to keep seeing in the industry?
Absolutely.
As well, like keep just that movement, you know, forward with that.
Absolutely. I think like a lot of the industry focuses on in front of the camera, which is so important. Nothing's more important than representation and seeing someone who looks like you represented in media. But I mean, for behind the camera too, I think, you know, there are people who are hungry for these opportunities. You know, I'm from St. Louis, so I know there's not a huge community there. I know there's not a lot of opportunity there, but I think that, you know, with social media, like TikTok and Instagram, like kids are seeing like, okay, there's somebody like me doing this in New York City. Like, I can do it too. And
I can be there too.
I can do it too.
You know, in that position as well. And I thought it was so important, you know, with this whole La Roche thing that happened, you know, where he retired.
Right.
You're going to have to
spill the tea on that, because I don't know much about it.
Right. So this is exactly what I was going to tell you about right now, because I was watching an interview that he did. I think it was after he walked the Boss show in Miami.
Okay.
And I thought it was so beautiful what he said. He was like, look, I really felt like I achieved every goal that I had. He won like the biggest awards a stylist could win. He truly, and I say this like with certainty, has changed his clients' careers and like even the way they're exposed to their public and their connection to the public, and how they've grown as literal fashion icons. I mean, what he did with Zendaya, what he has done with Celine Dion back in the day, what he did even with Lewis Hamilton is quite impressive, right? But what he was saying is he feels ready. He feels like he achieved every goal. So really, for him, it doesn't matter if he's acting in the field or not anymore. He feels like he paid his dues and he made his mark for other people to see. Roach made it. Roach was there. He looks like me. So regardless if, you know, he retired, he already did a lot in this field, they know that this is possible for them too.
Yeah. Cool.
So that was like huge for me to listen to that. And like, I think it goes hand in hand with what you're saying, and just making sure that seeing this diversity in this field really like helps people back home, you know, see themselves in that same position one day as well. And finally, we would love to have a little inside scoop here at the MV series. So I wanted to know, what is next for Erin? Any future goals or projects you can possibly share with us here today?
Yeah, so it's very exciting. Actually, we quietly started another company in 2020.
Lady Boss, I told you guys.
Yeah, it was like one of those COVID babies that we were like, this is a really good idea and we have time to do this. So we soft launched a company. It was underwritten by Design Miami. So we did like a satellite exhibition to kind of like welcome the idea to the world. And at the time, it was a design series, competitive design series for virtual and physical spaces. Okay. And we were using the prompt from 2020 of Design Miami, which was like how to heal America from COVID-19. So it was a spatial design company.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And we're about to relaunch version 2, which is an experiential consultancy. So we're going to be plugging into companies that want to expand their experiential marketing budgets and help them to strategize and plan their experiential programming.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yes.
This is wow, I wouldn't expect anything less of you, but this is truly insane and so great. So guys, stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned.
Any clients looking for this, watching us out there, stay tuned. She's coming out for you. For creatives back home, as you guys already know, we're going to enter into our MV series ops here. for our creatives that maybe already have a little bit of experience with production right today, is there anywhere or maybe any email you can share with us where they can apply to possibly, intern or assist you guys on a project in the near future?
Definitely. And it doesn't need to be New York or LA based. Like, we love remote workers. So contact adventure.nyc would be the spot to find us.
Amazing. We'll leave this for you guys right here so you can check it out and email her if you're interested, because she's the best and you will learn so much, I am sure. Queen, thank you so incredibly much for being here with us today. I know how busy you can get, so it was truly, truly an honor for me to have you. And I believe this episode was not only insightful to me, as you know, but I think for all of our people back home. Thank you for helping us immerse our creatives into this beautiful world of yours, which is so complex and I'm sure so full of opportunities and thrilling, exciting things, right? And you are truly a real example for us here, and not only for your incredible accomplishments, right, but also for truly being able to create not only your own path, but I think your own mark in the industry, which is huge, and you're so young. So we love you here. Thank you for being an amazing inspiration and mentor to everyone back home.
Thank you so much.
Love you.
Love you.
Yeah!
Yeah!
Creative beings, I cannot thank you guys enough for joining us today as we explored the world of production. I hope you guys were able to learn and connect with Erin just as much as we did today. Before I leave, guys, I would like to remind you once again that the MV series is streaming on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcasts, as well as have additional social media content on our TikTok and Instagram, all under the MV series. Guys, please subscribe, and keep showing us that amazing love so we can show ours right back to you. And I cannot wait to see you guys next week, once again, right here at the MV series.